hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Inside Furman Athletics. I am Dan Scott. We were scheduled to talk men's golf with Matt Davidson today. Matt has come down with a little illness. He's under the weather. We have rescheduled him for the 31st. So Tom Van Hoy is here, and he's going to tell us everything he knows about golf.
You want to talk about putt-putt, and I'm good, as long as you don't hit that windmill.
Exactly.
Hey, it looked like boot camp here.
Something like that, yes. So what we thought we would do is take the opportunity to talk a little bit of SoCon basketball and preview the upcoming Southern Conference tournament, which, in case you haven't heard, is this weekend in Asheville. Your Furman Paladins will be the number 5 seed, and they'll take on the Samford Bulldogs, the number 4 seed. It'll be the third time these teams have played this season, and it will be an 8:30 game on Saturday night and 8 o'clock pregame on the Ingalls-Furman Radio Network. Paladins, of course, won both matchups against Samford, a 3-point win at the Well the first time, an 8-point win down in Birmingham late in the season. And Tom, the old axiom about it's hard to beat a team 3 times. It's hard to beat Samford once.
Well, it is. They had that 28-game home winning streak, and then ETSU beat them earlier this year. They ended up losing 3 games at home. And one of those was to Furman. But, the way they have a unique style of play, distinct way they play buckyball, they get after you, they press everything, and different kinds of presses and off misses and everything else. But I think Furman, the way they have approached it, and they've been successful in doing so over the years, kind of really, Samford shakes up a lot of the teams in the league, and I think they've won a lot of games because of the way they play and the way they've been able to execute. But I think Furman has kind of figured some things out in the last couple of years that they more or less attack it, and they've been successful doing that.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that game specifically and the tournament from a broad sense here in just a bit. But Furman coming into play, beginning the Southern Conference tournament on Saturday, about as hot as any team can be, and for Bob Ritchie's team playing its best basketball of the season, winning their final 4 games in conference play. When they won their 3rd straight game, it was the first 3-game winning streak they had in league play all season long. So they've won 4 in a row, 5 of 6, and I think 8 of their last 11 in league play. So playing their best basketball at exactly the right time, and coming off of just a scintillating victory over the Wofford Terriers in Spartanburg to close out the regular season on Saturday, 78-75. And if you follow Furman basketball on social media, you have seen some of the great work from the Instagram account mostly, and also on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. That is largely done by a student assistant by the name of Sam Kemp, and he put together this game recap after the victory over Wofford to close out the regular season. Check out this bad boy. Furman and Wofford, the I-85 rivalry, and it is the last step before we get to the SoCon tournament in Asheville this coming weekend.
The biggest thing when you get in big games, don't let your effort decrease, don't let your intensity die. Just like we talked about last night, never surrender.
Anderson on the right baseline. Nick, a little floater, got it in a foul. Yes, sir. And he'll try for 3 the old-fashioned way. PJ puts it on the floor. Outside the House. House to Heen. He'll shoot a 3 on the way. Got it! Garrett Heen again. 74-73. A chance to win it here. 75 all. PJ front court with 4. PJ step back 3. Got it! With 1.1 to go. PJ Smith step back from straight away. He nailed it with 1.1 to go. Furman 78. Wofford 75.
We didn't surrender!
Love those locker room celebrations, don't you?
I'll tell you what, Dan, nothing like the thrill of victory.
Yes.
Because it can go either way. But remarkable performance, up by 19, took control of the ball game. And then Wofford's standpoint, they got up by 4 with a minute 10 to go. And the Heen 3 you saw there a moment ago, major league, and PJ gets to the line, makes 2. He had a great game, scored 32. We talked in pregame about the fact he's only had 2 games where he's been less than 10 in SoCon play. One of them was Wofford, one of them was Samford. He got 32 at Samford. He got 26 the other night against Wofford, and it was like deja vu all over again at Belmont, a 76-73 win this year when he hit the big 3.
Yeah, did the clip you saw there of Vanderwall coming from behind and blocking that shot off the backboard, did that revoke or invoke memories of anybody?
Oh, yeah. I mean, incredible what Jalen Slauson
Yes.
was able to do throughout his whole career. You would think that there would be a breakaway, and with Slauson and with Vanderwall there is they never gave up. You saw a coach there a minute ago, never surrender, and just he ran it down, and that was a tremendous play in the ball game. We think about the play that P.J. Smith had on a block, and that eventually hit a shot at the other end of the floor the other night as well too. So you just got to continue to play, and that's kind of the modus operandi to a certain extent, as you said, with the Furman Paladins.
Yeah, as we were getting ready for the Wofford game, went and intentionally looked at the stats to see, thinking, okay, that might have been, and talking about the Citadel game when P.J. blocked the shot on one end and then ran down and got the 3 on the other end in a great sequence. That might have been his first or second block of the year. It was his 7th. He has 7 block shots as a quote-unquote 6-foot guard.
Well, yeah, I was going to say on was it Garrett with us or one of those other guys we had on the Citadel as well? We were talking about that block, and I said, Brody Fox 6'6". Here came P.J. Smith at 6 feet, and he blocked that shot. And he goes 6 feet. He may not be 6 feet.
No, I said he may not be.
Okay.
I said he's listed at 6 feet, and it was Garrett Heen. He said 5'11", 5'11 and 3/4, something like that.
He's big to me, so
Exactly. So anyway, the Paladins finish the regular season 23-8, and I know in the midst of the conference season, there were some folks who started throwing around the words disappointing when it came to this Furman basketball season, and I wonder what they're thinking now. And if you allow yourself to step back, and this is what happens when you're a fan, you see everything in a vacuum. I think we have the ability to have a broader perspective, maybe not during the time the actual broadcast is going on, but after the game, maybe we have a broader perspective and have seen what has transpired around this league this season. And we've been talking about it really from right around the midpoint of the season, Tom, as we turn the corner and what we have seen night in and night out in this league. You go into Asheville on a yearly basis knowing there's usually 1 or 2 clear-cut favorites, and maybe another team or 2, if they get hot, could make a run. I have said at varying times this year, I think there are as many as 7 teams that could win this league. VMI has kind of fallen off a little bit, but they're still dangerous. But you look at any of these top 6 seeds who don't have to play in the play-in round on Friday, any of these teams could get hot and win this thing.
Well, the way VMI plays and defensively, what they did against the Paladins and took them out of a lot of different things, it has a struggle to get that one done on that particular day. And we had talked about VMI early in the year when Furman went in there and lost, and we thought, you know what? They're going to win some games. They were 3-33 the last couple of years in that regard, and in terms of conference play, and they're a team to be reckoned with, as the cliche goes. But you look back in the Mike Youngs at Wofford, and Bob's got to go in here before Nico Medved as well, and Wes Miller was at UNCG, and Steve Forbes at ETSU, and Lamont Parrish and some of those guys at Chattanooga. You knew going in that there were going to be some teams that were better than other teams in the league. And you and I have done it for a long time, you more than me. But this is as even as I think I've ever seen it. Chattanooga, the number 1 seed. They've won 11 consecutive games. They've won 7 consecutive games on the road. Wofford's a team that has lost games at home. They've won 5 straight on the road going in. It's going to be on a neutral floor. I mean, you got an ETSU team, or UNCG team, I should say, 58-50 beat Furman. at the well, and Furman shot 25% or so, one of the bad games of the year from the field, but that's what UNCG can do. Well, what happened when UNCG played Samford in the final game of the year? 108-100. I mean, how does that happen? Style of play, obviously, of Samford, but what that shows you, too, is indicative of what you can see in the league, because that was a game where Samford was down by about 20 points or so, and all of a sudden it turns out to a 108-100 ball game.
Right.
And you talk about Furman with a 19-point lead at Wofford, and what happened down the stretch, down by 4. Find a way. Furman, what is that, 11 games now? The Furman's trailed in the second half, come back and won. Chattanooga's a team, when they came in here, Furman led 11-0, 22-6. It eventually would get beat in that ball game, and that was about the third game in a row that Chattanooga had been behind by at least double digits. We've seen it with the Paladins as well. So when you watch these games and the Furman games and the games that are going to be ongoing in Asheville, if your team gets behind, don't worry about it. You know, it definitely is a game of runs. But the games that Furman has had with Samford, Furman has led about 80%, if not more, of the time against the Samford ball club.
Yeah, and Samford, with their style of play, no lead is safe. And that's why I have said there are many, many reasons why I am anti-betting of any kind, particularly sports betting. But if you're betting on this kind of thing, you've lost your mind. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no way you can even pretend to know what's going to happen when you get to these games in Asheville. And so, save your money for a vacation, and let's not even get into that. So let's take a look at the bracket and the way this tournament is going to shape up. It will begin on Friday with the 2 play-in games. The 8 and 9 game will be game 1 of the tournament, and it is 5 o'clock on Friday, and it's Mercer and Western Carolina, the 8 seed versus the 9 seed. And then the game that will follow that at 7:30 is VMI and the Citadel, 7 versus 10. You move to Saturday, and that is the big day as far as the most games in the tournament. Chattanooga, the number 1 seed, will open play against the winner of Mercer Western Carolina at noon. And then UNCG, the number 2 seed, will play the VMI Citadel winner at 2:30. ETSU, the 3 seed, will play number 6 seed Wofford at 6 p.m., and then Furman and Samford will play the final game on Saturday evening at 8:30. The first semifinal, the game that Furman would be in if it wins versus the Chattanooga Mercer/Western Carolina winner, that is 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. The second semifinal is at 6:30, and the championship game is Monday night at 7 p.m. All of these games are going to be on ESPN+. The semifinals will be televised live on ESPNU, and the championship game will be on ESPN or the ESPN2 Flex, depending on what they have going on. So that's the way the men's bracket is going to play out on this weekend coming up. So what jumps out at you as far as looking at that bracket, Tom?
Well, the number one thing is you don't want to have to play that first day. And then throughout the course of the year, Furman was kind of on that bubble a little bit there, and you needed to win some games down the stretch to make sure you didn't play in the first games on Friday. And because we know historically that you haven't been able to do that since 1939 when Clemson actually was in the Southern Conference. And you think back to the run that you had with Furman that played 4 games and got to the championship game against Wofford that one year, and then it was ETSU who made that run last year, and they got to the championship game before they lost to Samford. So the key is not to be playing that first day, and then Furman was able to at least reach that goal and have an opportunity to play in the quarterfinals.
If you're Chattanooga at the number 1 seed, and it's a seed obviously they earned, Mercer and Western Carolina at the 8-9, the winner of that game obviously will come in with some momentum. that is, to me, it's a game that Chattanooga should win and probably will win. But I guarantee you, Dan Earl is going to be all over his team about not just taking that one for granted, because both of those teams are dangerous. We saw the difference in Western Carolina from the first time we played them to open SoCon play on January the 1st, which was a 20-plus point beatdown, 29-point beatdown, I think.
90-61.
Until the second time we played them at Bob Jones University, had to go to overtime to come back and beat them. How much better the Catamounts were playing. Mercer, the record doesn't necessarily bear it out, but we have seen at times this year how dangerous they could be. I guarantee you, Dan Earl is going to be working as hard as he can to impress upon his team. Don't overlook that game looking ahead to the Samford-Furman winner.
You can't overlook any of them. I mean, it is one game at a time. The Southern Conference, you're going to get one bid. If you don't win, you're going home. And sometimes in some of the bigger conferences, you're going to go ahead and have an opportunity to play. So, I think that's an interesting game. New coaches and Mercer, that was a 5-point game, 79-74 down at Mercer. Furman got him pretty good here. But, good guard play with Amon Robinson and trying to just get the players in there into your system. Same thing with Western. They were not very good early in the season. And then, you know what? They came here, and that game played over Bob Jones University, and Furman down the stretch. I mean, Nick Anderson ends up with 30 in that game and had to make some key plays to get it into overtime to begin with, and then to be able to come away with a win there. At that point, Western Carolina was playing some of the best basketball of the year, and that's when Wofford went in there to play them. I thought that might be a really difficult game because Furman and Wofford were kind of on that cut line, so to speak, and Wofford got them pretty good. So that's an interesting matchup in that first game with Mercer and Western Carolina.
And looking at UNCG, they get the winner of VMI and the Citadel. The Citadel finished the entire conference season winless. They went 0-18 in league play in Ed Conroy's third year of his second tenure at the Citadel. So if you're looking at who should win that game, that should be VMI, and VMI, if that is the case, would play UNCG. If Mike Jones and the Spartans are able to win that game and move to the semifinals, that'll be his first Southern Conference victory since taking over. This is his fourth season. He has gone out in the first round in each of his first 3 years as the head coach of the Spartans.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to believe because they're a lot like Furman in terms of you can almost pencil in winning 20-plus games a year. I mean, don't ever pencil it in because it's tough to be able to do that, but they're right there as far as and the Paladins as well. And, they're a team that is known specifically for defense, but the 100 points aside we just talked about against Samford, they are a tough team to play, and they've got solid performers, particularly out of the backcourt, Donovan Atwill as well, and Breath inside, and they're going to play great defense, and I think they're going to give themselves an opportunity just because of the way they play D, and if they can get some things going on the offensive side, they've got a chance to win some ball games as well, and you just mentioned a moment ago they haven't had that much success, and I'm sure they would love to have that opportunity to advance on. And when you look at it, Samford won it last year, Furman, then Chattanooga, and backtrack a little bit, and seems like it's very even when you get to it, and teams that have that opportunity that maybe haven't won it in a while. Chattanooga's history, we know, is very good as far as the Southern Conference regular season, and they've won 13 postseason championships as well. So
what do you make of the 3-6 ETSU and Wofford?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think that's going to be an interesting game. We know Wofford, from a rebounding standpoint, they're going to give themselves the opportunity to have some second-chance points. And ETSU's a team, I think, that's gotten better as the season's gone on. ETSU, like Furman, has beaten Samford twice this year, and that's a pretty tough thing to do. And, they've got backcourt play, Peterson out of the backcourt there, and what they're able to accomplish as well. I think that's a very interesting game. And we talked about the Wofford. They couldn't win many games at home, but they had the success on the road. It's a neutral floor. But I think ETSU is a team that a year ago we talked about that as their new coach got in there and able to establish what he wanted. Down the stretch, they won 3 games in postseason play at the SoCon, then they got beat by Samford at the championship. That kind of set the stage for this year. They've got some guys that are coming back. This is a very interesting game. Wofford, when you look at them from a rebounding standpoint, and they're height-wise, and you look at that, they're 350 teams, Division I. They're like 296 as far as height's concerned, and I guess that doesn't tell the whole story when it comes to that, but they give themselves some opportunity with their ability to rebound. They got to be able to hit some three-pointers. The game that Wofford won here over Furman in downtown, they were able to hit 13 three-pointers in that game. 3 for 15, 1 for 10 start against Furman last time out.
Yeah, it's been 2 years in a row now, ETSU last year and Chattanooga the year before, that a team has come out of the play-in round and made it all the way to the championship game. Chattanooga did it. You remember they had lost Jake Stevens with a broken hand for a good portion of the conference season, and that's why they had gone into the play-in round. And of course, by the time he got back late in the regular season, they started playing the way people thought they would play, and they made it all the way to that championship game against Furman, and Furman won. And we know what happened there. First time in 43 years that they had won the conference tournament, and went on and had the single biggest moment in school basketball history with the win over Virginia. And ETSU did the same thing last year, from the play-in round all the way to the championship game, couldn't get there. And as Tom referenced a moment ago, Clemson, all the way back in 1939, when Tom was just starting his broadcasting career, had the last time that a team won 4 games in 4 days in the Southern Conference tournament. There was the bottom still in the peach basket.
My color man was Marconi.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Your color man was in black and white. That's how long ago that was.
I had to bring the ladder out, and then I had to get the ball out of the peach basket.
Right.
I had a great relationship with James Naismith.
Oh man! All right, let's go back to the game that obviously our fans are most interested in here. The matchup with Samford, 8:30. That'll be the last game on Saturday night after a long day of basketball in Asheville, and it's interesting looking at the history of this rivalry since Bucky McMillan came in at Samford. In talking with Bob Ritchie, one of the things that has led, I think, to Furman's success against Samford, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Furman, since Bucky has been there, is 8-3 against the Bulldogs. So Bob Ritchie head-to-head against Bucky McMillan, 8-3. And one of the reasons is Furman's mindset to be aggressive against that press, not to be passive against it, not to panic against it, to be aggressive and attack that press, and we have seen it be successful more times than not. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, doesn't mean there won't be mistakes made, and in both games, as you referenced earlier, we saw Furman with leads, we saw Samford come back, make both games a lot more uncomfortable than perhaps they should have been down the stretch, but the Paladins made enough plays to win both games, and that's kind of been the DNA of this series since these two coaches have been going head-to-head for 11 games.
Yeah, it's chaotic. It's frenetic style of play. It's successful style of play. Coach McMillan, of course, high school there in Alabama, just down the road from Stanford, won 5 state championships, and young man that as a young coach, same when Coach Ritchie began in his early 30s, and has moved in, taken that style of play. It's different than anything you see in the Southern Conference, gets you sped up, and it takes obviously some time off of the shot clock, and then you have a tendency to get in, and even when you get it in, they're going to double sometimes, and they're not going to double. If you turn your back, look out, they may come at you, get it on the sideline as well. So you got to be able to handle all of that pressure, and by that time the shot clock is wound down a little bit, and maybe you get in a hurry and you try to do some different things, and then if off a missed shot and things like that, they're going to double as well. So you got to be able to handle that. And boy, there's just been some really great games. You go back to the couple of today that won this year, And then the one game last year up there where Furman led by 5 with 45 seconds to go, and Samford was able to win it in that game. And then one of the big games, of course, was a couple of years ago, and it came down, one of the biggest games in Samford history at that point anyway, was for the championship, really.
Regular season, number one seed.
And Furman wins that game 93-79. And, I mean, a gigantic crowd, tremendous atmosphere for college basketball. So Coach McMillan has turned it around and got interest in college basketball. That game, we know that Mike Bothwell, right?
Scored the first 18
Scored
Furman
the first
points.
18. So, that's a pretty good way to start.
Yes. Before we get into wrap-up mode here, we also want to make sure you know that the women's tournament is going on concurrently, and it will open with the quarterfinal round on Thursday at Harris Cherokee Center there in Asheville. The number 1 seed, UNCG, will play Game 1 at 11 a.m. on Thursday against the 8 seed, Western Carolina. Number 2 seed, Chattanooga, against number 7 seed, Mercer at 1:15. Furman is the number 6 seed. They'll play the number 3 seed, ETSU, at 3:30. And then the final game on Thursday, number 4 seed Wofford against number 5 Samford at 5:45. The first semifinal will be on Friday at 11 a.m., the Game 1 versus the Game 4 winners. And then at 1:15, the second semifinal, if Furman were to beat ETSU, that's where the Paladins would be in that Game 2 versus Game 3 winners. So the Furman ETSU winner would play the winner of Chattanooga and Mercer. And, of course, Furman late in the season coming off of a really important and impressive win over Chattanooga. So if they could get there, Pierre Curtis's team would have an opportunity to maybe get back to a championship game. The championship game will be Sunday at noon at the Cherokee Center in Asheville. And, of course, that'll precede what's going on with the men's arrangement as well. All of those games will be on ESPN Plus as well. So for the women's side, Furman plays at 3:30 on Thursday against ETSU in Game 3 of 4 in the women's bracket on Thursday. And then should Pierre Curtis's team win, they would play on Friday at 1:15 against the winner of number 2 seed Chattanooga and number 7 seed Mercer. Championship again on Sunday at noon. And then all of that fits in and around what's going on with the men's tournament. So want to make sure you know what's going on both the men's and the women's side. And then to tell you that Dwight Covington would love to sell you a ticket to all of it.
Yes, he would.
And more importantly, I guess the Southern Conference would. But I still want you to go get it through Dwight. So you can go to FurmanPaladins.com and find all of your ticket information. If you haven't gotten it yet for the Southern Conference tournament, all of it kicks off beginning with the women on Thursday. The men's play in on Friday. The Furman men play on Saturday night, the last men's game on Saturday night in the quarterfinal round at 8:30 against Samford. It is going to be a fun weekend of basketball. And it's one of these weeks, Tom, where as this mid-major conference that the SoCon is adjusting a number of years ago to play Friday, talking about the men's side, Friday through Monday, you get that national television spot at 7 o'clock on Monday night for your championship game. And now the semifinals are also nationally televised on ESPNU. Everything else is online at ESPN Plus, but the conference is going to get some national TV love for the semifinals and the primetime spot for the championship game on Monday night.
Well, and so it's a week before the Power Conferences play as well, so you get well-deserved recognition and have that opportunity from a coverage standpoint. And there can't be many teams in the country, Dan, that have been on more bus trips than the Furman men and women, because they've had to go to respective Bonscore Wellness Arena or go over and play at North Greenville, waiting the completion of the Timmons Center next year, and looking forward to that.
Yeah, as Bob Ritchie pointed out, and Pierre Curtis has been the same thing for them. They've gotten on a bus for every single game this season, even the home games, because of the $44 million renovation going on at Timmons Arena, which, by the way, is getting closer and closer to its completion. You can go to FurmanPaladins.com or check out some of the Furman social media and see the latest update with Aaron Mays. It has been pretty amazing to see what's going on. I have to tell you before we wrap up, I made the determination when we walked out of Timmins after the final regular season game last season that I was not going to go into Timmins again until we broadcast the first game. So I have not been in the building because I wanted to see, I want the wow factor. I want to go from what I remember from the old Timmins. I've seen some of the stuff online, but I just made up my mind. I want the wow factor. So I've not been in there yet, and that's been intentional because I want to walk in it for the first time when it's done, when we're going to plug in the headsets and go for the first time and be absolutely blown away. And that'll be here before you know it.
Yeah, and you know what? The other part about that is, and there'll be some young kids that are coming in, the wow factor for you as well, but you're a baseball guy, and I am too, and I'll never forget when I was 10 years old walking. It was Old Municipal Stadium in Kansas City when rinky-dink by standards, but, man, you never forget that first impression.
No, you don't. You certainly don't. Well, listen, first of all, before we wrap it up, Matt Davidson, I hope you're feeling better soon, and we'll look forward to getting you rescheduled for the 31st of this month. Coming up next week, Rita Gary will be here. We'll talk women's cross-country and track and field. The 17th, we'll talk women's lacrosse with Gail Wallach. And then on the 24th, it's our next installment of Ask the AD with JD the AD. Jason Donnelly will be in here, and then Matt Davidson on March the 31st. It's going to be a busy month. It's going to be a busy week, but, man, it's going to be fun. Get your tickets to Asheville and get ready to root on both the Furman men and women this week. Thank you for coming in on short notice.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, you do everything on short
Yeah, that's true.
notice, don't you?
I don't have any other recourse other than that, and you've got to have that mini tramp to dunk a basketball that kind of says it all, man.
Yeah, it is what it is. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you again next week. We'll see you in Asheville. Come and see us, okay? Stop by the table or yell at us or something. Just don't throw anything at us. We're going to be busy. For Tom Van Hoy and all of us at Furman, I'm Dan Scott, as always, saying God bless you, and so long, everybody.